Kara. I just wanted to hop on today and say some things that are on my mind. I plan on working on one of my Victorian bodices that I've been working on for maybe the past year because pandemic got me highly unmotivated. But I'm working on the piped bottom and I'm gonna hand sew all along there. So join me as I sew and talk about some stuff. So Nicole Rudolph recently came out with a video about body shaming and altering clothing, and I wanted to kind of add to it. First off, I agree with everything she said. So coming from the perspective of a mom who has grown 3 children, bodies change and they morph and they go through a lot when you do that. A lot of the costuming community on YouTube, I've noticed, are not parents or people who've carried children. Bodies change as you get older, whether or not you grow a child. It's more just a different perspective of how bodies can change.
Bodies change, honey. Bodies change.
Now, everybody knows you get the bump and it grows out, and sometimes you grow wide. You know, everybody is different and everybody reacts to pregnancy differently. One of the things that I was not expecting was how broad my shoulders got, and they still are. That is something that has not changed. Your ribs literally expand to make room, and they don't always go back. My shoulders are so much broader than they used to be, and so I always have to buy shirts a size larger to fit up here, and then it's just swimming on like the lower parts of me because of how I'm shaped. That can be really frustrating, especially in modern clothes, which are not forgiving for varying body types. And then there's this expectation post-pregnancy to get your body back in shape and get beach ready and like lose all that baby weight. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes it falls off. I did nothing after my first 2 and I dropped back down to my average weight pretty quickly. But after my 3rd, that didn't happen. I'm still the same weight I was postpartum. It's kind of frustrating, especially when I feel like I eat really pretty healthy and I've started exercising every day. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes our genetics get in the way and we're just, you know, we have the body we have. For the most part, I am comfortable in the body I have. But when I go back and look at the costumes that I've made in the past, I feel sad. Bodies change when you grow another human. And one of the things Nicole Rudolph was talking about was people commenting on YouTube videos saying such and such doesn't fit here, or it looks a little wonky over here. And although people are trying to offer kind criticisms, it might be a self-conscious trigger for a lot of people. Anyway, I'm super self-conscious about my body right now. I wasn't after my first 2 kids, like I said. 3rd time's the charm. That 3rd one put me over. And I think it's because my morning sickness manifested a little bit differently the 3rd time around. The first 2 times, I was just sick. I was sick all 9 months, all 3 pregnancies. But my 3rd time around, the only thing that helped my morning sickness was eating. When you've been cosplaying for 15 plus years, and none of your costumes fit anymore. And some of them you can alter, but it just doesn't feel the same. Or you make a costume where the character is much thinner than you are and maybe you don't look exactly like them. It can be a self-conscious experience. Since my background is in theater, I'm actually quite used to leaving a lot of seam allowance inside of my garments, because when you're in theater, you do a lot of fittings. You leave 1-inch seam allowance in the sides in case you need to let anything out or reshape something. And so I've kind of gotten used to that. So unless I'm working on something with very fine seams and like curves that need like a small seam allowance, I tend to leave a lot, which will bode well for me altering my costumes in the future. One thing that I don't think is talked about quite often enough is altering modern clothes too. Not just old costumes you've had or even historical costumes you've made, but I get a lot of my clothes secondhand because that's what I prefer. It's more environmentally friendly. It's just more sustainable. So I shop a lot at places like Goodwill, which is the closest thrift store to me. I don't have a lot of options out in the suburbs. And ThredUp is another big one that I've been shopping at a lot. And sometimes, especially when you order online, things arrive and maybe they don't fit quite right. So I've actually started getting in the habit of just altering my normal clothes. Got a pair of jeans recently and they were really big on me. And so I altered them and I took them in because they were really cute and I still wanted them and I didn't want to send them back because that's just annoying. I fix my kids' clothes when they wear them out, which is almost immediately. My oldest cannot go a week in new jeans without ripping a hole. Funny enough, while I do encourage altering clothing for oneself if something doesn't fit here or there, or, you know, just kind of changing things to actually fit you, which should be normal. You know, I know not everybody can go to a tailor. They can be expensive. But sewing is a skill that many people could learn. And I think it's very important. I am teaching my little boys how to sew. My oldest knows how to use a sewing machine. Next up, he will be using actual sewing needles and learning how to sew on a button, because the majority of people my age, millennial-ish age, do not know how to sew on a button. What?
So, dear Kara, let's normalize our changing bodies and altering our own clothing.
Does anyone else just really like to smell their beeswax?